So I have some good news related to my appearance, and it's not the fact that I kind of look like a low budget cosplayer of Bella Swan from the first Twilight movie today. It's that you might recall, like 8 months ago, I don't really know, back in March. I started sounding ridiculous. I kind of had a bit of a lisp because I got Invisalign. And thankfully, the lisp kind of went away, but the Invisalign did not go away until today. I'm finally done. So, everybody who's come along with me on
Yay!
this treatment, all 4.5 people,
The Stony.
what now?
I said the Stony.
I
I
cannot.
said this journey.
This journey, yes.
As in, yeah, I was making fun of how you talked for the first week you had it.
Oh my God.
Sorry.
The way I've gone back and watched that video, and it is so like there's this, it's not even just a lisp, there's like a lisp and like 12 of the 26 consonants in the US alphabet I cannot pronounce. Like it's an embarrassment. Anyways, I finished my journey. I have straighter teeth. Not that that really matters. I have stopped grinding my molars into a pulp at night because I've got this situation, and I'll have to wear a retainer for the rest of my life, which will hopefully stop me from grinding my teeth. So I know we're here to talk about television, but I thought I would acknowledge Bachelorette language, everybody's role in this vulnerable journey to find corrected teeth. I'm so excited to be talking about the Eternals. I'm less excited to be talking about the Supergirl finale, but I feel like I owe everybody a check in after last week's discussion. And I just want to briefly mention The Good Doctor because I caught up on it this week. But before we get into that, Kate, do you have any news? Although I did kind of start the news off with the Invisalign situation.
Yes, the super important news.
Yes.
Not much. I'll reiterate that last weekend on Friday, Spencer came out, and so far from all I've seen, it has rave reviews. It's actually, from what I understand, different than the initial impression, which is just even more intriguing. It apparently has slight horror elements, which okay, that's fine, I guess. That's from what I understand, it has that like creepy horror vibe of WandaVision, but
Ooh.
with Diana. So that's great. And then Hawkeye comes out on the night before or the day before Thanksgiving.
I'm very excited about Hawkeye. I will reemerge from the grave and dust off my theory and review capabilities for something that's more than just a single week at a time. I have seen a lot of hype as well for your Heim Girl. Licorice Pizza has been like all over my timeline.
Yes, I had that one last as my last thing, which was I'm just so excited for her. I cannot wait to see that.
It looks like it'll be pretty good. I am excited about that. Excited about that as well. I have not seen Spencer. Instead, this weekend I went and saw The Eternals. It was kind of a toss up. And I know I mentioned last week that I was more excited. I was probably going to see Spencer in theaters before I would see The Eternals because sometimes I like to wait a little bit before I see Marvel movies, blah, blah, blah. However, the counterpoint to that is that I'm a liar. So I went and saw The Eternals this weekend. And let me tell you something. Marvel storylines are usually not hard to follow. So I think the problem was me, but like maybe it was intentional. I just didn't follow the majority of the storyline. Like it wasn't just that I wasn't like thinking ahead or trying to like solve the mystery. It was just like for a large part of it, if anything was even remotely complex, I was like, I'll just watch for the aesthetics. But that worked out really well, like very well. It didn't surprise like maybe I shouldn't really get into spoilers because I'm gonna give you a chance to like watch it. But it's kind of a situation where there's an ensemble cast and somebody might be the mole. People's alliances are not always clear. And like I straight up just went along for the ride, did not try to figure out like who was what, but I really enjoyed it. And Angelina Jolie was fabulous in it. And as I'm sure you've seen, or anybody watching would have seen as well, there's like a reveal at the end. Well, there's two reveals, and I don't really care about either one of them. One is there's like this Jon Snow character. The guy who played Jon Snow on Game of Thrones is in this. He plays like the love interest. He's like human, but like, ooh, spoilers, he might not just be human. He may have some kind of superpowers, whatever. And it's all like rooted in Marvel lore. And if you know who he is, like you know what he's supposed to be. It's like same as like any comic book, whatever, where like they've got their human version, they've got their whatever counterpart, and they're like not saying whatever his. Anyways, they reveal that towards the end. It's supposed to be really shocking. Couldn't care less. Don't like his character. Whatever. Then they also have this. I want to say Star Lord, but that might be like Chris Pratt's character or something. There's some character that, which is funny because it actually seems like okay. Let me stop interrupting myself. Rewind. I've never seen Guardians of the Galaxy. I dislike Chris Pratt, and I've disliked Chris Pratt for longer than everybody else has. I've been on this bandwagon for a while. I'm glad you all have caught up. Furthermore, I dislike movies like Guardians of the Galaxy that are sort of these like space comedy action with like they layer too many types of cheese and you can't really explore like any one cheese well, so it's just like cheesy in a bad way, right, okay. However, from what I understand, Chris Pratt's character in Guardians of the Galaxy is very much like a character, seems to me very much like a character, Eros or whatever his name is, but I think he's also like supposed to be called Star something, Star Fox, Star whatever. Anyways, that character played by Harry Styles in the first or second end credit scene seems like in the Marvel universe can replace Chris Pratt's whatever Chris Pratt's character is called. So I'm happy to see that elimination of the worst Chris begin to take shape. You've not seen the Eternals yet, is that correct?
I have not. I also didn't know Harry Styles was going to be in it, so thank you for the spoiler, Cammie.
You're so welcome. He's only in it for like 2 seconds.
It's fine.
You have like okay, so Angelina Jolie's character is essentially Athena. And I guess they're like playing with I don't know the Marvel lore for this, by the way, like at all. But I guess they're go ahead.
I was just gonna say I know it's heavily based on like Greek mythology, so like there's Icarus, and I know that some of them are not distinctly named like Athena and things like that, but they're heavily based on the Greek gods or like Greek heroes.
Mm-hmm.
So I know like I've seen the meme of Icarus, and I like Richard Madden, so I probably will like Icarus, but I saw one somebody said, "Oh, is the sun blinding you? I'll shoot it for you," and then I was like, "Oh my god, did people not?" The irony here is great.
All
that
of
is
the
the one thing about it.
all of the cast in this is fantastic. There's like one story. Okay, I lied about not tracking all the storylines. There was one storyline I was kind of following because there was a relationship I really liked, where it was kind of like a big sister, little sister type of thing, or mother daughter esque almost, or I don't know. There's the main chick. I don't know anybody's names, and then there's like this younger kind of like teen girl looking person, although everybody's like a billion centuries old, so like they're all old, but one is like a teen old and one is like a 35-year-old old type of situation. And they just had this really cool vibe where it was very much like mother daughter, aunt and niece type of situation. And it was really cool. I loved their relationship. I loved seeing them, get to fight bad guys, whatever. And there is a twist in this movie. I'm not like some sort of traitor twist, but just like the way their relationship is that kind of causes a rift. And that's my least favorite part of this movie. And I'm not even saying I don't want to see women fight each other. I do like seeing women fight each other or somebody be a good guy, somebody be a bad guy, blah, blah, blah. All of that. I like seeing Athena, which is based on Athena, which is Angelina Jolie's character, fight literally everybody all the time. Fabulous. But the rift in what was otherwise like kind of this cool familial relationship didn't love. But you win some, you lose some. It's an ensemble cast. But everybody was kind of like loosely based on Greek mythology, I guess. I was no, how like they say everybody in like middle school / high school has an obsession with either like what is it? You're either like a horse girl or a Greek mythology girl or an astrology girl or I don't know, baking girl. Like there's like the few main obsessions, the dolphin trainer, like the kind of archetypal whatever. Greek mythology was not mine, but if it was yours, I feel like that would add an extra little sparkle to the movie.
Yeah, it wasn't mine, but it was mine by proxy because it was my best friend's. So I am familiar enough with Greek mythology to get all the references, I'm sure.
The Percy Jackson
Yes.
squad. Yes. I think mine was probably, I don't know. What how do you characterize the series of unfortunate events kids? Maybe theater kids. I feel like the overlap of theater kids and series of unfortunate events kids is probably a circle. Okay.
Was I like a Legos kid? Because I was a Legos kid.
Those are the people who grow up to be very successful engineers. Those are the actual functioning members of society.
Okay. Those two things very rarely overlap, but I'll give it to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, would you like an update on the Supergirl finale, or would you like to tell me about what you read this week?
I can go ahead and tell you about what I read this week, and then we can talk about the mess that I saw and how it all connects to what actually happened in the Supergirl finale.
Okay.
So I mentioned last week I was reading The Secret History by Donna Tratt, and I finished reading that. It was as pretentious as I thought it was going to be. It was still fun. I would recommend it if you're really, really, really into like dark academia aesthetic and like murder thrillers that follow the killers. But other than that, it's like, yeah, it's not my thing. Then I started reading the first book of Wheel of Time. So I am halfway through Eye of the World. It is a
And
long
that comes
book.
out this Friday, right? On Amazon?
I think it comes out next Friday. It's the 19th, I believe. Yeah, it's next
Okay.
Friday. So I don't know if I'll get through the first three like I had planned on, but I will definitely be done with book one by the time next Friday comes.
Very excited to hear about the Wheel of Time books and show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty fun. It's a basic fantasy series. It has some fun women in it, but it's the first book is very much based in a single male's perspective, and it's kind of him going through the journey. So it's a lot less character development, a lot more like world building right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it has a lot of potential to be really good. So we'll see.
That's cool. I'm excited to see where that goes, just in general. Really fabulous cast, and apparently Jeff Bezos wanted this to be like the next Game of Thrones type of thing, so they funneled a ton of money into it. And I'm always like at any given point, I'm rooting for Jeff Bezos's downfall specifically. However, I'm never rooting against good entertainment. So
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Now on good entertainment. What in the world was the Supergirl finale?
Listen. Okay. First of all, let me just say there were some cheesy things that a lot of people didn't like that I kind of forgave because I can forgive some cheese in a superhero show. Okay. So by the time this show had reached its natural end, the fan base had amassed, as I'm sure you can imagine, a mix between comic fans, comic book Supergirl fans, people who've never read a comic a day in their life, and everything in between. Those of us who've maybe skimmed a few pages of something, we've watched a lot of comic TV, we're familiar, but we're not necessarily some sort of like comic expert, right? So I'm somewhere in the middle of that scale, but who knows, right? In the finale, there were some cheesy things, such as her giving an inspiring speech that got everybody to become their own hero. Where I'm like, okay, this is cheesy, but like, I know this is how it goes at the end of a big franchise. This is basically sort of what Star Wars was going for in like the second movie of the latest trilogy. This is not unheard of. Like, I can forgive it. However, the final episode was entitled Kara, whatever. And I had mentioned last week that the thing that would make this really successful to me is if the finale really revolves around her and her journey and moving her journey forward, giving her a happy ending as well, type of thing, and allowing her to be showcased as a hero. It doesn't really do that. Now, one of the cheesier moments is when she is kind of giving this inspiring speech to get everybody to like break free from some mind control that they're under. And she's using some mind helper from one member of her team, and then like ultimately it comes down to the fact that like Lena cast a spell, because Lena is now like a witch slash magician, that allows Kara's voice to be amplified, which is very apropos because right, yeah, no, there's like also witches just like randomly for fun. It's fine. um
Okay.
they're like, we're not going to give Lena a storyline, a love interest, or the natural progression with her and Kara, but like she could be a witch, like from Ireland or whatever. Anyways, so that moment is kind of cool logistically in that it's like kind of the whole team has to work together to do this thing. It doesn't come across as visually stunning. It's literally just like somebody sitting there giving a speech of like, be your own hero. And then like cut to later, this is going to sound even dumber with me saying it than like what it looked like. But basically Kara's like at home, right? Like getting ready to make breakfast, and there's a news broadcast on, and the news broadcaster's like, there's a cat stuck in a tree higher than anybody in the city can reach. And Kara's like reaching to like take off her glasses and go be Supergirl and rescue this cat. And then the news broadcaster's like, oh no, we're receiving word that all the citizens band together to create a rope and pulley system. And Mr. Whiskers has been rescued now. And she puts her glasses back on because like Supergirl's not needed because everybody is their own hero. Like, I kid you not, that's literally like the culminating moment in which she realizes the city could be their own hero. Here's the thing. If you need like low budget whatever situation, you need like news broadcasters as a way for her to figure out that the city was being their own hero. Did it have to be around rescuing a cat? Could it not have been like a little higher stakes than that? Really?
Yeah. I mean, especially for her as a hero, I can get with, I can believe that a big part of her hero's journey is recognizing that she has left such a legacy that other people have, even like normal people have filled in the gaps, that non-superheroes have filled in the gaps, so she doesn't always have to be there. Cool. Great. We can do better than rescuing a cat in a tree.
Truly. Oh, another moment that kind of blew my mind a little bit as somebody who's watched every show in this franchise at the wedding, because her sister gets married to Jimmy Olsen's sister. So at the wedding, she and Win and Jimmy are all like at a table and they're like, look at us, look how far we've come. We're the OG super friends. And I'm like, baby, nobody called you that. Never once. Not a single day in your life. Nobody's ever said, who said that? No, nobody's ever said that a day in your life. The OG super friends, honey, no. No one ever said, I, with love to literally all three of you, except I never really cared for Win, but like there's so much worse. With love, nobody ever called you the OG super friends a day in your life. The show raced to break up the three of you and try every other chemistry for team, for romance, for everything else that you could possibly think of. No, don't say that, because it was so reminiscent of like calling Oliver, Diggle, and Felicity OG Team Arrow, and then there was OG Team Flash, obviously, with Barry, Cisco, Caitlin. You know, like the other shows do have that, but no, don't say that. Have your little
Yeah.
chat at the wedding, do a
Well,
cutesy little dance.
because if I feel like there was one time, once or twice, where they have said the terms like super friends
Yeah.
because it is cheesy and they can say it on that show and get away with it versus if they had said it in Arrow, they would be roasted in their open flame. But at least, like, I know that I've heard them say it before. But the OG Super Friends, that is a strong phrase.
Those are strong
Like,
words.
I
And nobody
remember.
ever said that about the original three. Like that they were not that kind of original trio. They were like kind of a floppy love triangle at best, and
Yeah.
they barely worked together as a team for very long. This show was heavily invested in keeping Jimmy away from literally every other character for God knows what reason, which is why they were never able to move his character forward, is that he was never really a part of the team. They would have him off not being a part of the team, or he was off being a photographer and then he was off being guardian. Meanwhile, Win the entire time had a when is he going to turn bad storyline because he's like the villain's kid, whatever. Like this was not a trio that ever had like cool team trio moments. Like even Flash, for all I rag on them, did actually have like a clear team Flash. Like if I say team Flash, you know what trio I'm talking about. Like Super Friends, when I say Super Friends, you think of the current or the either the current group with, you know, Brainy and Alex, blah blah blah, or you think of the original, like when she was just working with Alex and John, but never her Jimmy and Win, and never the term OG. Don't ever say that again. Take it out
Well,
of the
and
script. Take it
even,
out.
like, I know they said, oh, like, Super Friends, but even when I watch it, like, in a recent season, there was this level of, it feels like she's friends with the individual people, but it didn't feel like a big friend group for some reason.
Agreed.
And then when she, if it was ever to refer to, I would agree that the closest would probably her and her sister and John. But John was actually more like a father figure,
Yes.
and it was her sister. And yeah, you can be friends with your sister, but your sister relationship comes before your friend relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So it's better to say like a super family, but then that's like evoking Superman, and that's just weird. I think it was a weird phrase they used. I know because it was a reference to comic books.
When they were saying
Nobody
Super
ever
Friends,
really
it was also like
qualified.
it was as a way to sort of manufacture team chemistry when there wasn't really team chemistry. Individual characters could be kind of cool. I think there were a couple characters I really struggled to care about this entire time. Brainy is a good example of that. That character was a consistent, like, that is, there was a big disconnect for me between him and the quality of the rest of the show. No shade to the actor, sure he's great, but that character for me did not work. But I know that in the comics, that character, Green Brainy, is like a big part of Supergirl's storyline, and I think that was just, had they gone back in time and simply not decided to have him be a part of the show, that character to be a part of the show, I think that would have heavily improved the show, because there was that always threw off the scene for me. Um, Dreamer, a lot of her storyline was really held back by tying her to Brainy for so long. I would have liked to see her develop aside from him quite a bit. And they kind of had like this weird, in the end, it was like, oh, we're going to have a sad ending. Oh, wait, I'm going to come back for the wedding. It was weird. Also, Monel comes in just to save her, like damsel in distress style, and then leaves to go back to his wife. So that was mad weird, to be honest. I
I
will say,
mean,
go ahead.
like I get why Lionel was there in like a we're throwing out every stop possible just to go like satisfy the friends of hey look who we afforded to bring back. It's her husband. Like it's not.
Right,
It wasn't like you're gonna twist his arm too terribly hard to get him to come back
right.
for an episode. Whereas like as much as I didn't mind Mono, I actually liked Mono. Did I love the romance? Not really, but I thought he was an interesting character that had more potential, and they kind of just kept on wasting it. Um, but I will admit, like, it's weird that they brought him back. That's what I was referring to. I was like, you could have come up with a better reason than him just
Truly.
saying your speech was in the history books. A lot of things that she's done is in the history books, I'm sure.
It was
Why
just like such a
now?
weird, they really half-assed bringing him back was kind of part of it. Like he came back to save her and then they have these really awkward shots where like the whole team is there, but for all it's worth, they frame it as if he's the head of the team. Like he's front and center even more than her. And it's just like, ooh, think of the optics. This is a Supergirl finale.
Mm,
Like at least put her front and center. You know what I mean? Anyways, so there
yeah.
was that. But then he ends up not really being integrated in the rest of the scenes. So like if you were a Monel and Kara shipper and you were kind of hoping for at least shippy scenes, you don't get them. Like that he saves her, they fight together, and then he's like, well, like they attend a funeral and they're not like next to each other really interacting. And then at the end, he's just like, yeah, you're not gonna see me again because of whatever. Which also I think they tried to like build in a loophole on that because they were like, he was like, you can't see me again, can't see me again because once Brainy merges with the big brain, whatever, history changes, blah, blah, blah. But then they insinuate that Brainy does not merge with the big brain, so history would not change. So maybe Monel does come back. I don't know. It's stupid. Then there's this whole scene at a wedding. Okay, I'm going to describe it. Go watch it after and tell me if I'm being unfair. I don't think I am, but we know
Is
my
it the
fault.
Lena? Is she in Lena? Is it okay? I did see that. I watched like 4 or 5 scenes, 4 or 5
Okay.
clips, and I watched that, and I watched the scene where she's talking to Kat over the phone.
Yes. I love the scenes with her talking to Kat over the phone as like guest star silly cheesy appearances go, where they couldn't get the person there, in person. That was really cute.
Yes.
Okay, so at the end of the wedding, or towards the end of the wedding, but they're at the wedding situation. They're like next to this big, beautiful tree, kind of between them, behind them. And they have this moment. There's like a lot of like touching and holding of hands and shoulders and all of this. And Kara's telling Lena, like of everybody in my life, you're the one who's been there for me the most and pushed me the most and supported me the most. And then Kara's like, or Lena's like, you have made me a better person, blah, blah, blah. Here's the thing. Had you watched, and I'm not sure if you did, but it's totally fair if you didn't. Had you watched the actual wedding vows that was there, their lines next to each other, next to the tree, very much reflect the like tone, contents, quality, etc. of the actual married couple there at the wedding doing their like little wedding vows. And it's framed very wedding-ish, like they're by a tree. They're in their wedding clothes. There's the like light and dark, the whole situation. Anyways, very much looks like a wedding. At the end, they embrace. They don't kiss. Duh. Like we can't get rid of homophobia in one night. Then the whole crowd claps, but it's for the actual wedding because there's a send off. But the whole thing is set up like a pseudo wedding that would occur between a gay couple on a show in like over a decade ago, where like they can't come out and say they're gay, but there's like an obvious kind of love confession towards the end. Anyways, thank you for listening.
Yeah, that was a scene I saw, and it's when I did actively watch Supergirl. I was not really heavily invested in that ship, but I definitely could see the writing on the wall and could fully support people that were really, really into it. I did not care. I actually said last week I would have hated for them to get together in the last episode because it's really just like a slap in the face. I didn't realize it could get worse than that. I didn't realize that they could, for one last time, really just dangle that carrot
Right.
right in front of everybody's face, saying, hey, we know they have insane chemistry. Hey, we know this would be a great exploration if we made Supergirl bisexual or whatever. And they just don't. And so then it's just this, we're still platonic, but we stare at each other longingly and we say that we've changed each other for the better to the
The
level of
platonic shoulder
love.
holding at its finest.
Yes. Yeah. It just, wow. I saw that. I was like, the words you're saying, they're
Right.
really great. They're really heartfelt. They make me feel things. But the context I have really just destroys anything that made me feel.
I think like this is just a classic situation, very much like Emma and Regina on Once Upon a Time, which I never actually watched, but I have strong opinions about. It's a classic example where this would be a hero anti-hero pairing if Lena was male. Like, there's just not a doubt in my mind that had Lena been male, for better for worse, like, even if you wouldn't have wanted them together, even if it would have been, rushed or cliche or tropey, had Lena been male, they would have ended up together. 100%. And it's not a super versus Luther thing because supers and Luthers don't typically in the comics like end up together. But with the character that Lena was, it 100% would happen. But,
Yes, I mean, she played a Luther, but on the outskirts and like the black sheep of the family. Like, I'm a
she also,
Luther by
like, I
name
guess
only
wasn't
kind of.
biologically a Luther. That was another thing that was later revealed,
Yeah,
which
I
opens
know
up
what you
like a whole
mean.
other ethical thing of like all of the biological Luthers are awful, but Lena gets to become a heroic witch because she's not biologically Luther, which just raises some ethical concerns for me, but whatever.
Well, and also just like the conversation of nature over nurture and a whole
Right.
bunch of other concepts that we
Right.
don't. It's a lot to get into. It it was definitely. I mean, for as much as I was invested in the Supergirl finale, I haven't watched 3 seasons, maybe 2, 3 seasons. I knew the stakes that they had going into it, and I knew that how they could do it to kind of just try to please everybody and therefore please nobody, or write off an actually good, fulfilling storyline. May have upsetted some people that just wanted the fan service, but actually would have been a really good character finale. And I knew that we were going to get the throw everything at it to make nobody happy, but nobody listens to me.
Right. I mean, the the discourse of her sister being gay, so she can't be gay, the discourse of there can only be one gay couple on the show truly just never died. And I guess that that kind of shows where we are as a industry audience, etc. But we'll see what happens with these same sort of conversations. I think on Superman and Lois, because I believe they're going to have one of the boys be gay or bi. So we'll see if that means they hit their gay or bi quota for the show and nobody else can be. I know that I said we would only take 30 minutes, and I think we're over by a couple minutes, but I just want to briefly mention a little plug for The Good Doctor here. Now, I know you don't watch The Good Doctor, or do you watch The Good Doctor? You caught up on it, didn't you?
I was watching it. I'm still not fully caught up because I kept on hitting spots that I got bored.
Completely fair. And it's a good show to marathon. It's not something you have to stay super current on. But recall that one of the things I've said that the show does really well is write difficult women. So, write irritable, difficult women who can still be strong and positive and absolutely my favorite characters. They have done that
Mhm.
with a character called Morgan, I guess is her name. She is consistently difficult, does not get better. You know what I mean? Like consistently abrasive, consistently bossy,
Yes,
consistent
I know
all.
who you're talking about.
Yes. And I
Yes.
love her all the better for it. They've consistently let her do that, but then they've also given her growth, and the growth is not a personality transplant into being nice. Love that. Very rare to see. The only you see difficult women become likable by getting a personality transplant so often, even in like modern media where supposedly people are more conscious of that. Anyways, they've introduced a new head of the hospital. It's the chick you see on the screen right now in a completely different personality. She likewise has been a truly excellent, fascinating portrayal of a difficult person who is written interesting and well, while also being difficult, sometimes unlikable, ethically kind of convoluted. Like her ethics do not reflect most of the other characters' ethics. It is very rare to see somebody whose ethics don't reflect the rest of the character's ethics, not just personality type, but ethics differ. I one of the only examples, did you ever watch Parks and Recreation?
I watched a few clips, but I never watched the whole thing.
Most everybody familiar with pop culture, even if you haven't watched Parks and Recreation, is probably familiar with Ron Swanson, the character, the kind of
Mhm.
grumpy guy who's sort of like anti everything. He is one of the very few examples where a character's ethics, like their actual ethics of what is right and wrong, frequently differ from the rest of the characters, but he still gets to be a good guy. He still gets to have character progression, all that sort of stuff. You almost never get to see a woman go through that ever. Even in a case like Lena Luthor, her ethics were almost always like to do the right thing. You know what I mean? Like she just had a different methodology. This character that you see has like ethical gray areas, but is still written as a positive, interesting character who gets success and romance and all of it. Love it. 10 out of 10. Highly recommend catching up
Cool. When I have time to watch things with my life, I might just have to catch up.
in like 2 months. Okay. Well, that closes out for tonight. We've gone over our 30-minute goal. I will talk to you next week, or we might skip a week if we're both kind of busy. We'll see. I will talk to you later at some point to chat about
Hmm.
Hawkeye, if nothing else.
Yeah,
Talk to you later.
excited about that.